Hi, welcome to the new voting project. My name is Kunal, still your host. In a democracy, things tend not to change, so the host will remain the same. Um, but today we're here with Fatima Zubair, a candidate for state assembly in District 64 of California. Thank you so much for being with us today. I understand being on a campaign is very busy from personal experience. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited that you're, doing this project. It's a really important topic, so I'm excited to engage with you on it.
Of course, thank you. We do appreciate your discretion. Let's get into this first question. So, just for our viewers, talk a little bit about your background. What got you into organizing activism and now a candidate, running for elected office, and touch on how college, or do you think college prepared you to deal with your responsibilities?
Yeah, so let me start with my background. I consider myself like super multicultural because I'm Sri Lankan by heritage. I was born in Dubai, you
Wow.
know, never really lived in Sri Lanka, but born in Dubai and then immigrated to Canada with my family. I immigrated to a province called Saskatchewan, which is like, a lot of people, some people don't know, but it was the first province to get healthcare for all. And became a Canadian citizen, then immigrated to New Jersey in the US and did high school and college there, lived in the Caribbean a little bit for grad school, and then found myself in California, in 2009. So that's kind of like, my background. And in terms of like my work, I'm an educator, I'm specifically a STEM educator. And that's why issues of access, become really important to me because, you know, um, when you think about math and science and robotics, I mean, which communities have the best resources to really you know, have their students be able to succeed, right?
Right.
In those areas. And so, um, yeah, and so that's my background. I also, I started a robotics team at my high school, and I'm still a part of that and mentor that, and we do a lot of outreach. Why did I
First,
get into
first
organizing?
robotics.
Yeah, first robotics. Yep,
Yeah,
the
I,
terraform.
I went to the World Championship a couple years ago.
Amazing. Yes, and my
Yeah.
husband's team is actually a world championship. They're actually championships, Team 4201, which we about bots. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, my team, like we were finalists. I think in or we maybe even won. I forget, but we won a couple of awards, like judges award and things like that. But yeah, but super proud of them. But that they actually inspired me a lot because it's particularly when you see a program in a community like Watts, where 3% only of the community are college graduates, and then my team over 95% are in a four-year college, many of them finishing up right now. It shows how just having even one program there can really change the trajectory. Um, and then, thinking about that, so that was educational equity is a huge issue for me, right? And it was kind of enough to be like, I need to get more involved in organizing. But the thing that really, made me kind of go over the edge was that, the water situation. Like in Watts has a lot of, places where there's no clean water. It's said to be the next Flint, particularly even my own school wasn't built following environmental code. Just toxic areas all over where my students live, high levels of lead, like way higher, than what it should be in the state. That's what really led me to go outside the classroom was the environmental issues. And I soon saw it's all tied, to development and how development happens without, just bypassing, environmental regulations and things like that. I'm really hoping right now my son doesn't run it. That was my biggest feedback. You might
Don't
run
worry
it, but
about
it's
it.
okay. It'll be
He'll
good.
become part of the interview. Don't worry.
It'll become part of the interview, and I'm also a mom. So
That helps.
yeah, so I am also a mom. My son's autistic, has special needs, and right now he's actually with his ABA therapist, so they should hopefully should be okay. But yeah, but so education's really big, environmental issues is really big, and just kind of organizing in a nutshell in the community, seeing that. And this is a myth. People sometimes may say, "Hey, people in low-income communities are so busy. Do they know what's going on?" They do. Come on, they know when they're getting sick. They know when the quality of food is not as good. They know when their water's coming out brown. Like they know when their schools aren't giving them what they should be getting, right? The issue is that we've had our elected officials not listening for so long that even community leaders have lost trust, right? That's what led me. I applied to be a commissioner to Gibson's office, actually my opponent's office. That's what eventually made me a candidate. I didn't think even at that point I would be a candidate. I was ready to make change with the assembly member's office, right?
Right.
Um, but didn't really see that to be an avenue to do so. It was more like do the great work you're doing as a leader of the community. And I wanted to ask about the budget. I wanted to do all these other things. And I noticed myself being quiet in these meetings, right? a lot of corporate candidates, they're not really there to be held accountable. You know what I mean? It's like it's a certain kind of a little bit of entitlement. I'll say it. I don't usually say those things about my opponent, but it's true. And so that's a big part of the reason that I'm running is because then working with an activist from Food and Water Action, just kind of seeing my opponent's record um, was really what pushed me over the edge, because he's had 6 years in there and just has a 22% Sierra Club score, D's and F's on his courage score. These are report cards that independent kind of organizations do to assess your voting record. I mean, the biggest corporate acceptor of money. And to me, 2 years in a child's life is a huge difference. I'm not going to wait till he terms out in 2026. It could cause someone to get asthma in that stage or cancer or, affect a child's education, their growth. And to me, that urgency was there to run. And then the second part of your question was about, does college prepare you, right? Was it to run for office or to organize, Kunal? What was the specific question?
I guess I guess since you're running for office, do you think college prepared you to, be an elected official and assume those responsibilities?
Yes, but I think honestly, life more prepares you because I don't want to sit here saying college is for everyone or should be for everyone because um, it, especially the cost of college right now, and also like there's different pathways for people. I'm raising my son with the mentality that he should be whatever he wants, and that
Right.
requires college, but it doesn't always. My whole thing is access should be there. But anyway, did college prepare me? Um, my answer is I don't think so. I don't. I mean, I had leadership positions in college. I'm a bit older than you, right? So I'm trying to remember way back then, but I did. And so I guess those opportunities to be a leader on campus. I led different clubs, and I was part of this. I was part of just different community service groups and things like that. Being a leader helped me. I was on the track team. So just learning time management that helped me. But honestly, I'll go back to what I started with. Like it was really life experiences that I think really helped me to be at this point. My work as a teacher and my experience as an immigrant. Living near where 9/11 happened, right? And knowing what it feels like to be an other. My experience being a mom, right, to a son who's autistic, working through the public school system and advocating for him, right? My experience seeing what my students go through, and just dropping them home, talking to their families, and seeing what they go through day to day, right? To me, that prepares you, right, to be an elected leader way more than a college education.
Right. Yeah. It's
Hmm.
a good answer. Yeah, no. And I guess tying into that do you think that's what's contributed to drawing you into, community organizing, activism? That was it. That was the catalyst moment when you recognized your elected officials had essentially failed.
In essence, yes. Particularly, I mean, just to keep it short, yeah. Like, I mean, that was a catalyst because I didn't sit there when I was in high school or college and say one day I'm going to be a politician. Being a teacher, was the happiest I've ever been in my life. Like I've had elements where I've had anxiety. It just like everyone has different things, and there are situations that give me anxiety. I always used to tell my husband, when I was in the classroom, like I was just like my best. I got so much from my students, and I had no anxiety about my job, and it was just like the best thing in the world. My students always made me smile, like even through the bad days, like um especially in Watts, the community there is so raw, authentic, honest, and I got so much out of that, and I literally fell in love with the community. And so yes, that the catalyst that got me to run was honestly it was two things. It was like I literally fell in love with the community so much. I got so invested in it. I would be the last to leave school. The janitor would be like, Fatima, it's time to go, we're closing up, and just doing that and being so invested in it. And then yes, seeing the elected official and you know knowing the beauty of the community, the power in the district and the community, and seeing that lack of representation, it literally broke my heart. I'm like, how do you sleep at night doing this? Like the people in here are so talented, the students are so talented, the kids are so talented, the youth are wanting more and more, and then and like it just that sort of investment, and then seeing the dichotomy, right, of elected officials and the lack of care and love they put into their role is just that's what got me to run.
Right. Yeah. And as a candidate, what are some of the policies you're advocating for? What are the objectives you want to accomplish in the California State Assembly?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind, and it's tied to a lot of the things that I'll say after, is I want to make the system, this is over encompasses all my policies, make work for everyone. And to me, it's two things, right? We have to keep doing direct actions on the streets. You see that with Sunrise Movement, Black Lives Matter. I mean, local movements. I mean, got to keep doing that. But it also it's an inside-out strategy. So we have to get the right people in, not just me. We need to build a people-powered movement to get the right candidates in. And the way that we do that is through, yes, people power, but we can do some policy things to get that done. Publicly funded elections, right, is one thing that's really important. Um, Limiting corporate contributions, lowering the spending limits, like limiting how much a candidate can spend on an election or be allowed to spend by inside and outside expenditures, right? Because it's crazy how much money is in elections, and it puts a lot of grassroots working class candidates at a disadvantage. Um, Something else I want to do though to make that happen is also voting rights. And we're talking about voting rights, but it's also in my policy. Is I want to expand voting rights. I want to let 16-year-olds vote in school board elections. I want to let undocumented immigrants vote in local elections. I want to let those in prison vote as well, because I think these are all forms of voter suppression. When we don't have automatic voter registration everywhere, when we try to limit the electorate of who can vote, we're literally leaving people out of the process, and that's bad for the voter and the citizen, right? And that community member, but it's also bad for a good candidate that's trying to get in, right? Because the people that would vote that are restricted to vote right now are the ones that would vote for those working class candidates that have those real life experiences. So I want to really do things that would change the system. And of course, in summary, if I believe if we do those things, we'll get things like single payer passed. We'll get things like, I'm so sorry, we'll get things like single payer passed, my computer with notifications. We'll get things like, the Green New Deal passed and clean air and clean water everywhere. We'll get adequate funding for the public education system, right? We'll solve our housing crisis. Why? And this sounds very simple, but it's true. If you talk to the progressive legislators from up there, you'll have enough candidates that are not bought out, that are just want to do the work, that understand that justice is love and love is justice, right? And like that's the way that they will legislate, that's the way they would vote, to put it simply.
Right. Yeah, those are good answers. You're answering a lot of the questions I'm about to ask. But I guess let's circle back to last year, 2020, crazy, almost insane and hard to understand in some ways. We had an election, we were in a pandemic, crimson, orange skies in California, fires. I mean, this year there were some earthquakes. Give me, give me, your perspective, your thoughts on the 2020 election cycle, municipal, your election, general. What did you think of what happened last year?
Yeah, just my particular election, or like just in general for 2020?
All of it. All
All
of
of it.
yours
Oh my
included,
gosh.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
huh?
Yours
Yeah.
included, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so honestly, I'm glad Trump's out of office, number one. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Um, thank God, because he did so many executive orders. I mean, just his influence, in that executive role, but also just the morale of the country, right? So thank God he's out of office, first of all, you know, and the other thing is, one thing about the 2020 elections, yeah, it was crazy during a pandemic. I mean, I know a lot of campaigns, especially grassroots campaigns who want to do fields like mine, we couldn't knock on doors, and that was a serious disadvantage. Fundraising is a serious disadvantage too, because you can't go have events. I mean, everything was virtual, and that really restricts some of the ways you can reach voters and engage with progressive donors and things like that. Um, but I guess I'm trying to think of, well, the other thing was I'm glad that we have the majorities we have in the House, and and as well, um, and I guess I'm glad. I'll say this too. I'm just giving like my first thoughts that come to my mind. I'm
Sure.
glad like we have Alex Lee in the state assembly, who got elected.
Shout out to
I'm
Alex
real.
Lee, who I'm trying to interview, by the way.
Oh, is he hard to get in touch with? I can get you in touch with you.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. No,
Okay, yeah,
we
he's
love
great.
Alex Lee. I'm from the East Bay, man. I'm like 30
Oh
minutes
my
from Alex
goodness.
Lee.
Okay, so I'll yeah I'll put you guys in an email. I mean, he's great. So like honestly, he's the highlight for me of 2020. I'm glad we got let's say like him elected. Um, and then the other thing that's in the front of my mind, and maybe it's because I'm an optimist. I choose to focus on hope. But I'm also glad that in LA we had this progressive energy, right? And I know San Francisco, I feel like it's a little more ahead in this progressive energy than we are, the Northern California. But we had this kind of progressive energy in LA, around some candidates, and a lot of them, got elected. The others built movements. I feel like mine, like even though I didn't win, I definitely like. I remember talking to voters like the last 2 days. They're like, Fatima, like you invigorated something like in our living room. Like, we're just so excited. We've never had a candidate like you in South LA, and so I know like um there was there's something stewing in LA right now, right? There's this progressive sort of things happening. If you talk to other candidates from LA, that is really exciting, and it gives me a lot of hope. And I think it's invigorating, people and young people and just Democratic voters, independent voters alike. I mean, I think they're just invigorated, and that's exciting to me. And I felt like 2020, was the start of some of that energy.
Yeah, no, I believe it. 2020 was crazy. I mean, I lost several elections, won a couple elections, and then hopped on like 3 races later in later half of November that I'm continuing to be on. So yeah, and then I don't know if you know Janini's running in
Yeah.
Oakland, big supporter of Janini. We have another state senate race here. Aisha Wahab is running. So plenty of progressive candidates came out of the 2020 election, and more to come, hopefully, especially after redistricting. But I just want to move on and talk, like I said, the central theme of this channel is to talk about voting rights. And we see in places like Georgia, Texas, imposing heavy restrictions on minorities, the access to ballots, the amount of absentee ballots, even criminalizing poll working in some ways. Give me your thoughts on what's happening in these states as a reaction to the 2020 election.
Yeah, I think it's awful, first of all. I mean, just to put it bluntly, I think if we consider ourselves, that we want to aim to be a democracy, we should make it as easy to vote as possible, and open access to as many as possible, like people to vote, right? That's, I mean, as plain and simple as what I think about it. I think it's a lot of fear mongering, a lot of fear tactics to suppress the vote. Um, a lot of times to help one party, right? And I think that's sad. Like it's like, um, if you really want to win, run a good candidate, right? I mean, do it the right way, but do not take away people's, freedoms and right, to vote. It's like the most basic right. I feel like, that we should have in a country like America. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, those are my thoughts on it, to be honest. So, like, I just think that, I mean, I talked about my policies. Is I feel like we need to expand voting rights, honestly, and make it easier. So the fact that there are folks out there in the country, who are trying to suppress it and make it harder, like it just is bonkers to me. It doesn't even make sense, because I'm like, so you want to like reduce democracy and reduce access to people, and that just seems like that's just very undemocratic. I mean, it's just not right, to put it simply, right? I mean, it shouldn't be happening. I mean, that's how you have more corporations and special interests and outliers, right? Let's call it controlling the political process. Is when you have more people involved, that's how you really make sure that the representation that we're having is representative of people, right? I mean, the more you limit voting, you're going to start getting a government and policies that are just not reflective and not controlled by all, but just controlled by some, and that's scary.
Right. And I guess it's a very simple question I ask all the interviewees, which is how important is the right to vote? How important is voting? I really want to help people understand the significance, the entire purpose of, everything that happens, in my opinion, has to do with voting. So
Yeah.
what do you think?
A couple things came to mind when you asked that question. First, I think we need to abolish the electoral college, is my opinion.
Wow.
I think it's because it'll make that one vote, one voice even more, right, powerful. Not that it isn't, it is so powerful, but part of the reason I want to abolish the electoral college is for that. I think that it, we need to, I want to get to one vote, one voice. I want to make it just as democratic as possible, and the electoral college doesn't allow for that sort of level of democracy, right? But no, voting is really important. I mean, I think of, Bernie Sanders, like winning his first election with, I think, one vote or two votes.
Shout out to Bernie, who I'm also trying to interview.
Awesome.
If you're watching this.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it makes such a difference. I mean, we recently had, from Bernie's election, we had a recent election in Compton where a candidate I endorsed lost an election by 1 vote, I believe it was, two.
Wow.
1 vote. And it is so important. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because, I'm not trying to sound Trumpian here or anything like that, right? At all. But we, it's so important that all of us vote, right? Because when more of us vote, right, it just, like I said, repeating what I said, it makes it so that the majority, like, we have the right person elected, to put it simply. I mean, that's it, right? So even if the other side tries tactics, suppresses the vote, interferes in the election, what have you, if enough of us vote, if each of us says my voice is important and your voice is important, everyone's voice is important, it's going to even, I feel like, potentially anything that shady that the other side's trying to do or anything that's being done, it'll overcome that, right? And that's part of the reason I'm starting field early, to make it early, is like, it's literally about voting, right? Like,
Yeah.
honestly, we have the recall election coming up in California, right? I've been telling, it's scary, and I just want to bring that up because it's scary how many Democratic voters, like, aren't aware of when their ballot's coming, or even know that it's happening when we're at the doors. And so that's part of the reason. One of the first questions we ask is, do you know about the recall election? Do you know what the questions are, before even talking about my campaign, right? So it's so important to vote because, like, for example, in California now, we might get a Republican governor if we don't, right? And then what will happen to all the bills that pass? And nothing, I mean, it's just going to reset us, right? Reset our state, or make it go backwards. And so, yeah. So I mean, just being aware of your rights, right to vote, is such a root of any democracy. It is the way we get change happen. I mean, if you think about getting the right candidates up there, it starts with voting. If you think about, um, just issues you care about, right? Like, if you care about issues, when you vote for a candidate, you're not just voting for the candidate, you're voting for an issue. Propositions, right? A lot of times when people know about propositions, right? We see the influence of corporate influences who are getting their money into these proposition races, and essentially not giving a chance for the right conclusion to happen, right, out of that proposition, to go, like Prop 15, and I believe Prop 21 and Prop 22, right?
Prop 22.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not just candidates, right? It's also propositions. It's anything you vote on is so important. And in my mind, it is a way to beat those corporate interests, to say, you know what, you're funneling all this money into it, but I am going to choose to vote and do my research and vote, or talk to someone I trust, right? And make a decision on how I'm going to vote. And it's almost like, you know, telling all those corporations, all those special interests, that, you know what, like, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to vote anyway, right? And I think for people that didn't always have the right to vote, with women, whether it's Black folks, and I hope that one day we'll say undocumented immigrants, because I want them to get the right to vote too, at least locally, right? Because they're such a important part of our state, especially here in California. Um, I think then, even, it becomes even more important, right, to appreciate that right, because knowing that those in your history, right, in your lineage in this country, did not have that right, and just understanding the difference that makes, in using your voice for good.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mhm,
And I guess this is in closing, they
mhm.
call our generation Gen Z. I don't know why they call it that. Um, I don't know where they got Z from.
What does it stand for? What does that Z stand for?
I don't even know. Like, I guess we just chose our favorite letter Z. Z. It sounds good. I mean, Gen A, Gen
No.
B, no, sounds like downgrade. Gen Z, it has a little ring to it. Um, but how do we, as I'm 17. I'll be voting in my first election next year.
Oh, good job.
Yeah, I'm a poll worker. We're out here. We're doing these things, but a majority of teenagers, are either disillusioned or like me, or just don't pay attention. So how do we get involved in voting, elections? What's your advice to us as the graduating class?
Yeah. Um, I would say, okay, the first thing that actually comes to mind is, a lot of candidates are on social media, right? And now also on Snapchat. I know a lot of young people are on there as well. So I think just like, um, following those candidates on social media is a good way to kind of, be active of, like, as to what they're doing and things like that. And I think online, like, everything is on the web these days, right? I mean, if you want to search, who is my congressperson, something will come up to help you find your congressperson. Who is my assembly person? Who is my state senator? I mean, I would say, like, just, use the resources you young people use anyway, which is going online, social media, to find out who's representing you or who the candidates are you want to back, right? Start there. And then, of course, dig deeper and figure out, well, what are the issues I really care about? Are these candidates reflective, right? How do I want to vote on this proposition? You know, and I think, yeah, getting involved is so important. I think particularly for young people, I want to say this because honestly, you're going to be on this planet for a while, for a long time, right? Longer than me. And so it's like it matters. It matters. Your voice matters because it's your future ultimately. It's as simple as that. It's your future. And so definitely get involved and like I said, like, you know, going online on social media is a great way to do that. And also network. Like, your friends may know something you don't know, right? Maybe one of your friends' parents or uncle is like involved in politics, right? That's great. Now use that network, use that person to ask questions and figure out more information. I mean, that's how I did it as a candidate, right? It's just networking and figuring out, okay, this person can give me this resource and I can help this person with this resource, right? So I think just using your networks of young people, right, to figure out, hey, like maybe we have folks in here who are in politics or family members in politics that I can kind of pick their brain and ask some questions. So those are my suggestions, but definitely get involved. Help the candidates you want to support, get involved because just like you asked about voting, to me, that is also right. Just civic engagement looks many different ways. It's through voting, but it also is through making sure you know about the issues in the candidates, and then it goes a step further in supporting those issues and those candidates, right? It's all part of civic engagement, and like I said, it's so important because this is your future more than it is anyone else.
Right. Yeah, no, it is my future, and you should
Hmm.
definitely vote for me when I run first. No, I'm playing. Well, yes, thank you so much for that. I understand you do have to go somewhere after this.
Mm.
How can viewers stay updated on your platform?
Yes, and I'm sorry for all the notifications as well.
No, don't worry.
Apologize.
Don't worry.
Yeah,
Campaign life. We're trying to
yeah,
give them a real perspective on how
okay,
campaigns
okay.
actually operate. Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
Too many calendar reminders, too many Slack notifications. That's how it operates. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but folks can get in touch in a couple of ways. My website has everything, so it's just www.fatima, FATIMA, 4FOR assembly.com. There's ways you can volunteer there, donate. If you're under 18, though, you can't donate, but you can get your parents to donate, right? That always helps grassroots candidates like me. But you could volunteer. I mean, whether you're actually in San Francisco or LA or anywhere else, you can always volunteer. So sign up on the Get Involved form, and we'll connect you, right, with any opportunity, whether it's social media, it's a policy, to direct voter contact, whatever you're into, like we can get you involved, we can train you. And I think, yeah, that's the best way to focus. Just my website has all the resources that you need to find out how to get involved.
Perfect. And your Twitter, I'll link everything in the description too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my Twitter is Fatima, the number 4 assembly. So Fatima, the number 4, and then assembly. And my Instagram and Facebook is just Fatima, FOR assembly.
Cool. And you have to follow me.
Oh, and I'm on Snapchat. I have
Really?
to tell my team will be. Yes, I'm on Snapchat too. So not Snapchat. I'm on TikTok. That's what I.
TikTok.
You see,
TikTok.
this is why I'm a millennial and not a Gen Zer.
Yeah.
You see, we're not as good.
No,
Okay,
in my opinion, I think TikTok is the real pandemic, if you ask me. Uh,
right,
I'm not into
right.
it either. So
Yeah, it's okay. So anyway, it's Fatima, the number 4 assembly. I haven't posted. We haven't. My team hasn't posted on there a lot, but we figured it's a good way to get young folks involved. A lot of young people are on there, so
perfect. Yeah. And you have to
yeah.
follow me back on Twitter just as a precursor. It's like a prerequisite to do anything.
Oh, okay. So you follow me, I follow you. Got it.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it. It's
No,
official now. We said it on here. So
exactly. Yeah. No, I try to have everybody follow me back because really without me, none of this would be possible. I like to say
true, true, true.
I'm playing. No, but seriously, you should follow me. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close out?
No, just like honestly, thank you so much. You had such great questions, and keep doing the good work you're doing. I hope if you're running for something, you get elected. Work hard and get
Yeah.
elected.
Maybe,
Do the
maybe.
work. If you do the work, you'll get elected. I'm sure you. I mean, that's like the immigrant mentality, right? I'm being sounding like such a mom right now, but seriously, just work hard, do all the right things. You get it done.
Yeah, that is the immigrant mentality. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the
All
show.
right.
You're always welcome back as a candidate, or maybe as a state assembly woman. You're always welcome back to the show to
Yes.
talk about your policies.
Mhm.
And yes, enjoy the rest of the campaign, and we'll plug all of your things in the description below.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kunal, and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.